Hello, Stephen Bedard here, and I'd like to talk to you about Ravi Zacharias. I'm going to begin by telling you about the first time, and really the only time, that I met Ravi Zacharias. It was quite a long time ago. In fact, it would be coming up on 30 years, I guess. I was involved in an evangelistic group that was mostly people from India. And I was a part of that. We would do all kinds of evangelism, especially with people from an Indian background, and we would share the gospel with them. And I remember there was one time we were having a meeting, which was the meetings were great because we always had Indian food. I love Indian food, and it was great. And we were having this one meeting at the home of one of the people who was involved, and they introduced me to this person who they described as being this very intelligent, well-known, famous person. And I didn't remember the name. I'm not great with names, so I didn't really catch it. But I shook the man's hand and was like, "Oh, nice to meet you." I had never heard of him. I had no idea who it was. So I just went and sat down and ate my Indian food. Number of years later, I realized that one of the people on our team was actually Ravi Zacharias' sister, and that man who just happened to visit us at that meeting was Ravi Zacharias, and I had no idea who he was. Of course, I did get to know who he was. I did get a chance to see him speak in person at an event in Toronto, have read many of his books, and thought he was a pretty good apologist. He, I wouldn't say, was the highest level in terms of intellectual apologetics. He really didn't have more than, I believe, an MDiv in terms of formal education, but he was a good preacher. He definitely was a good preacher. He reused his illustrations a lot, but that was great. He spoke all over the world, and so if I was doing that, I would probably do the same thing as well. He definitely opened up a lot of doors for the preaching of the gospel, and also for myself, probably the greatest impact was when I would hear his radio show. And yes, this was radio. This is before I was listening to podcasts. Let My People Think I would listen to, and I was encouraged by the intellectual way of looking at Christianity that I had been, in my early Christian years, had been told to focus mostly on the emotions, and I'm not a very emotional person, so I didn't feel very Christian. And so I found that Ravi Zacharias opened up that aspect of my faith, and I was encouraged to look into the intellectual side more. However, he ended up passing away, which was sad, especially the way he suffered with the cancer and how quick it was, and I'm sure it was very difficult for his family. But even more difficult have been the revelations about his sexual abuse and other moral failings that had happened. He had done some other things that had come up while he was alive. Things like, one of the accusations was that he was using the title doctor, even though he only had an honorary doctorate. I didn't really see that as that important. But other things, he seemed to overemphasize what his studies were in England, and even teaching opportunities that he claimed to have had, that those were highly exaggerated in the way that he spoke it. Those things didn't actually happen that way, and so I was concerned about that. But then the sexual sins came out. And this has been very difficult for a lot of people. And I know in the early days of these accusations coming out, many people in the Christian community, especially the apologetics community, rejected them. In fact, I didn't really believe that the sexual things happened right away. I thought that this was rather an attempt by critics of Christianity to try to bring down a well-known and influential Christian apologist. Well, it ends up that was not the case at all. It looks as if those accusations were accurate, and this has been very difficult. And I've been blogging on this at my blog at stephenjbedard.com, and actually some of the most read posts that I've had on my blog have been about Ravi Zacharias, as people have been looking at this. But I've gotten a lot of pushback from people. For some, at the beginning, it was, you shouldn't talk about this because they're not true anyways. These women who claim to have been abused and harassed, they're just lying, and you shouldn't talk about these things. But now that the truth has come out, the more common pushback is that we shouldn't talk about this because he's dead now, he can't defend himself, just leave it alone and let's move on. And I don't think that that is a good way to look at it. First of all, I want to say that I have no interest in attacking Ravi and his family. I have great respect for many of the things that he did, and also have a lot of compassion for his family. But it is also vital for us to talk about what he did. We can't just ignore these things, and that's for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that if we say, you know what, he's died, let's not talk about it, we are saying that if someone is in sexual sin and has been abusing their position and has caused harm to others, if they can make it to death, well, then we're going to protect them from there. And that is wrong. Another reason we need to talk about this is the fact of the victims. And they might not have the same platform. They might not have the same... they're not as well known as Ravi Zacharias. We might not have the same warm feelings we might have for him, but they are human beings who were caused harm. And if we bury this, we are saying that their suffering doesn't matter, and we can't do that. There's been too much of this that's gone on. I know for a long time people would accuse the Roman Catholic Church of being responsible for this, but now we are seeing many, even among, especially among evangelical churches and leaders, that this kind of stuff is happening, and we need to take a stand and say no more. We're not going to allow people to do these things, and we need to take a stand, and we need to bring these things to light. We also need to send a strong message to up-and-coming leaders, those who maybe are just starting to get well known, those who already have a platform. We need to send a message to them saying that this kind of behavior is unacceptable, and also to remind them that no matter what they think is going to remain secret, it will come to light. People will find out about it. And you can't just trust in your platform, you can't trust in your organization, you can't trust in your own cleverness to keep this a secret. It is going to come out, and it is going to cause harm. It causes harm to the victims, it causes harm to the church, it causes harm to those seekers who have been considering Christ, and they're finding out that the people who are talking to them are not living the way they are speaking. And so this is very, very harmful. I understand this is hard. Along with the fall of Jean Vanier, very similar in that these accusations came out after his death, and I actually had a lot more respect for Jean Vanier and the ministry that he did with people with disabilities. And it was so hard when I found out that he had did these terrible things and had sexually abused people. And yet, that's not to say that the work of Jean Vanier or the work of Ravi Zacharias, the good things that they did, that does not disappear. Good things did happen, and we can acknowledge that. The things that they said that were true are still true, whether or not they have done these things. But at the same time, we have got to take these things seriously, and we need to talk about them. I think one of the saddest things that happened, aside from the abuse that happened to these women, is the attempts by people to cover it up, to try to put it under the carpet and not bring it to light. Their willingness to protect this person when there were viable accusations. At least there should have been an openness to look into the truth, even if they were sincerely not believing that these things happened. And we need, as Christians, whether you're a Christian apologist or not, we need to focus on the truth. Jesus is the truth, and we cannot live in lies. Jesus, when he was talking to some of the religious leaders who were living in deception, they were lying, he called them children of their father, the father of lies. We need to always fight for the truth, even if that makes us uncomfortable, even if that means we lose some of our heroes, we still have to focus on the truth. So what we need to do is pray for the victims of these men and others like them. We need to pray for those who are struggling in their faith because of what has happened. We need to pray for their families and for their colleagues. And we also need to pray for ourselves, that we would not fall. Because if men like Jean Vanier and Ravi Zacharias could fall in this way, then any one of us could do the same thing. So we need to take care of ourselves, and there are no easy answers there. We need to draw closer to God. We need to have accountability, and I'm sure that these men would claim that they had done those things, and yet all we can do is try our best to remain faithful to God and to the calling that He has upon our life, and to not put ourselves in vulnerable positions. So that's what I want to talk about in terms of Ravi Zacharias. I wish I didn't have to have this talk, but I think it is important for us to be discussing this. And that's why I think we need to talk about Ravi Zacharias. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel and visit me at stephenjbedard.com. God bless.